My son Michael once kissed my forehead and called me the jewel of his life. Yesterday he shaved that same head bald, snapped a photo, and told the neighbors I'd torn my own hair out in a fit of madness. If you think that's the worst of it, keep listening, because the scheme he spun next almost locked me away forever. Hello, dear friends. I'm Helen Smith, 75 years young, greeting you from my little blue house in Willow Grove. Before we begin, share in the comments what city you're watching from. Your hometowns become the map of this channel's big, warm heart. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss how this nightmare twists into something powerful. I woke on a Saturday, crowned in daylight and silence. Franklin's Army Bible lay open on my chest. Habit, not accident, because reading his penciled prayers calms my heartbeat better than pills. Beside my bed, a vase of peonies leaned toward the sun like choir ladies whispering a hymn. I could almost taste peace. Then Michael stormed in, slapping the doorframe hard enough to shake dust from the picture rail. My son is 45, tall as a church steeple, built like the linebacker he might have been if whiskey hadn't swapped his dreams for bar tabs. His dress shirt, rumpled, unbuttoned too low, reeked of last night's cheap gin. "Morning, Ma." His smile was all neon, bright, buzzing, and unreliable. "Got a surprise for you." I pushed myself upright, tucking silver curls behind my ears. "Surprises at my age can be fatal, Michael." He laughed, a sound brittle as cracked ice, and waved a glossy brochure. I took one glance. The words Lake Barlow Serenity Gardens glowed across a photo of jubilant seniors tossing beanbags. My stomach dropped into my slippers. "A retirement home?" I asked. "Retirement resort," he corrected, tapping the page. "All inclusive. Chefs, meals, 24-hour nurses, lake views. You deserve comfort, Ma." I folded the brochure shut. Comfort is sleeping under a quilt that smells like Franklin and tendon roses with soil under my nails. Comfort is my church pew, third row, left side. Michael rolled his eyes so hard I swear he saw yesterday. "You're alone here. What if you fall? What if you forget the stove?" I rose slowly. My joints protested, but dignity stood taller. What if your liver forgets you're still alive drinking like that? We all have risks. For a second his facade slipped. Something wild flashed behind his pupils, then vanished. He shrugged. "Think on it. Deposits refundable for 3 days." He set the brochure on my nightstand, kissed my temple, and, like a magician hiding his trick, palmed my house keys before swaggering down the hall. I sank onto the bed, smoothing the quilt where his shadow lingered. Behind his bravado, I sensed desperation. My late husband's savings had dwindled after 3 rehabs and a failed startup Michael forgot to close. He'd borrowed against my life insurance, too, promising returns that never arrived. The math multiplied dread in my chest. "Lord," I prayed, "show me how to love the sinner while fighting the sin." That afternoon, Pastor Jordan dropped by with fresh rhubarb jam. We sipped tea on the porch beneath hummingbird wings. I voiced my worries. He listened, hands steepled. "Helen, Scripture says be wise as serpents, gentle as doves," he reminded. "Love your child, but safeguard the stewardships God gave you, mind, body, and estate." As the pastor drove away, clouds curdled gray above the oaks. I spent evening hours double-checking window locks, though I couldn't lock out blood ties. At 10:30, I slid Franklin's pocket knife under my pillow, reassurance more than weapon, and drifted into uneasy dreams. It must have been near midnight when a cold metallic click stirred me. A silhouette loomed at my bedside. Michael, cordless clippers in one fist, phone flashlight glaring from the other. My muscles froze. Terror slowed the world to syrup. "Hold still, Ma," he whispered, voice thick with adrenaline. "Doctor said we need proof." Before I could scream, the clippers buzzed and warm strands tumbled across my cheeks. First swipe, second swipe, the sound felt louder than a chainsaw. Shame flooded me, hotter than fear. Each curl that fell was 30 years of tin rooftop lullabies and first day of school braidings. I clawed at his wrist, but Michael's strength outweighed mine by decades. He pinned me with his forearm and finished the butchery, breath hissing through gritted teeth. Then he yanked me upright and angled the phone camera. "Look what you did to yourself, Ma," he muttered, snapping pictures. "Everyone will see you've lost it." You won't believe the next move he made, one that nearly condemned me to a locked ward, so stay close. Michael's flash blinded me, freezing tears on my cheeks like beads of glass. The phone shutter clicked again and again, evidence, he called it. Yet every snapshot felt like a hammer striking the coffin of my good name. "Stop trembling," he hissed. "If the ambulance crew sees you calm, they'll think I staged this." I tasted iron from biting my tongue, forced my voice steady. "Son, take a breath. Whatever debt drags you, we can pray." His palm slapped the dresser, rattling my porcelain angel collection. "Prayer doesn't erase overdue notices, Ma." His chest heaved once, twice. Then his gaze flattened into calculation. He dialed 911 on speaker. "My mother's injured herself. Yes, she shaved her head and keeps yelling about voices. I'm scared she'll hurt me next." He ended the call, thrust the phone in his pocket, and marched out. A key turned. The bedroom door clunked shut. Silence followed, thick as wet wool. For one stunned heartbeat, I simply listened to my heartbeats. Then Franklin's pocket knife pressed against my hip. A reminder. I clicked on the lamp and surveyed the room. Hair tufts littered the quilt. A smear of my blood dotted the pillow where scissors had nicked my scalp. Proof. But proof of what and to whom? Footsteps thudded down the hallway. Cupboards banged. Michael, staging further madness perhaps, flung dishes, broken frames. My pulse quickened. The paramedics would arrive to chaos tailored to his story. I slipped to the window. Rain sliced the dark, pooling on the azaleas 3 yards below. The old lattice looked flimsy, but desperation lent courage. I flipped the latch, sash groaning like a confessor, and winced as cool air kissed my bare scalp. Then headlights washed the driveway. Ambulance, too late to climb. I darted to Franklin's armoire and yanked the top drawer. Inside lay my church shawl, soft ivory. I wrapped it around my head like a nun's wimple, hiding butchered skin. Next, I grabbed a small hand mirror and caught my own eyes. Yes, wide with terror, but sharp. I practiced a smile, steady, serene. They would not see a lunatic tonight. The bedroom door flew open. Michael barged in with 2 paramedics behind him, both in neon jackets glistening with rain. He pointed at me. "See? She's covered her head to stop the bugs crawling out." I folded my hands on my lap. "Gentlemen, good evening. Please forgive my son. He's overtired." The taller medic, name tag Reyes, studied me. "Ma'am, have you harmed yourself?" "No, sir. My son cut my hair without consent." I lifted the shawl briefly. The brutal shave spoke for itself. He did it to claim I'd done it. Michael gaped, then recovered. "She's confused. She begged me to help remove snakes from her hair." Reyes's partner, a woman named Lynn, glanced at the clippers Michael had dropped near the dresser. They were still warm. Condensation beaded the blades. I opened Franklin's Bible on my lap, revealing the inscription. "This comforts me when storms rattle my nerves." I doubt a delusional patient manages cursive prayer at midnight. Reyes's brow furrowed. "Sir," he addressed Michael, "why are you perspiring?" Michael's face flushed. "Because I'm stressed. She's not safe." A police cruiser rolled into the drive. Red-blue lights flickered across my wallpaper roses. Officer Mendez stepped in, took quick stock of the scene. Who requested transport? Michael thrust his phone at him. I did. She's self-harming. Mendez eyed my composed posture, then the scattered curls, then the clippers. Ma'am, may I ask you a few orientation questions? Please. I recited today's date, the mayor's name, even quoted Psalm 23. My voice never shook. Mendez turned to Michael. Did you cut her hair? She begged me. Reyes crouched, lifting a curl between gloved fingers. Fresh cut. There's no follicular blood on her hands, but there is on yours, sir. Crimson dotted his knuckles where he'd nicked me. The damning speck glowed beneath ambulance LEDs. Michael's bravado cracked. He reached for the nightstand, maybe to pocket the clippers, maybe to strike. Instinct hurled me backward. Franklin's pocket knife flashed from my gown sleeve, not open but visible. A warning. I would not go quietly. Officer Mendez stepped between us. Mr. Smith, hands where I can see them. Michael's shoulders slumped. He complied, but his glare promised storm surge later. Reyes addressed me gently. Ma'am, would you like medical attention? I'd like a quiet bath and the locks changed, I answered. Mendez nodded. We can't force transport. Based on observable evidence, there's no sign you're a danger to yourself. He turned to Michael. Sir, step outside while we take Mrs. Smith's statement. Michael backed into the hall, eyes darting like trapped wasps. Lynn followed him. Radio crackling. I exhaled for the first time since scissors touched skin. But relief was brief. Through the doorway, I glimpsed Michael dialing furiously. Tammy, his on-again, off-again partner. Reinforcements. Reyes's clipboard hovered. Let's document everything, Mrs. Smith. Haircut, photos, his attempt at involuntary commitment. I nodded, pen trembling between fingers. My statement poured out, inked in stubborn loops taught in 1958. But while I wrote, Michael hatched a counterstrike, one that wouldn't rely on paramedics or clippers, but on the law itself. Next, you'll learn how a single forged signature almost cost me my freedom, and who risked everything to stop it. The police cruiser's taillights vanished down Willow Grove Road just before dawn, leaving the porch lamp to flicker over rain-washed lilies. I locked the door behind Officer Mendez, then leaned against it until the wood cooled my spine. The house felt bruised. Hair clumps on the bedroom rug, dresser drawers gaping like broken teeth, but it was still mine, and I was still free. I boiled a pot of oatmeal and forced down 3 spoonfuls. Hunger had fled, but strength must be fed if I meant to stand my ground. While the kettle sang, I dialed Pastor Jordan and left a message. Please come as soon as the sun's up. Bring Grace Patel if she'll come. I didn't trust voicemail for details. Some nightmares require eye contact. By 8 o'clock, the pastor's Navy sedan pulled in behind Grace's silver hybrid. Pastor Jordan climbed out carrying a toolbox. Grace Patel, low-heeled shoes, hurricane posture, followed with a leather briefcase bigger than some toddlers. The moment they crossed my threshold, resolve settled in the room like fresh mortar. Grace wasted no time. I've filed an emergency elder abuse petition. Judge Martinez will hear it Monday morning. She popped open the briefcase. Between now and then, we gather every shred of proof, photos, medical statements, witness affidavits. I led her to the bedroom. She photographed the butchered hair, the blood-speckled pillowcase, the still-warm clippers bagged by the paramedics. Pastor Jordan replaced the door lock, humming "It Is Well With My Soul" under his breath. Halfway through cataloging evidence, the doorbell chimed again. I froze, oatmeal spoon dangling midair. But it was only Mandy Fuller, my next-door neighbor, cheeks flushed from marching through drizzle. She carried a flash drive. I recorded Michael's, Sermon on the driveway last night, she said, eyes darting to my scarf-wrapped head. He was yelling something about you losing it and needing guardianship. My ring camera caught everything. Grace's eyebrows rose like sunrise. May I make a copy? Mandy nodded and handed over the drive. Grace clasped it like communion. Pastor Jordan poured us coffee. Helen, tell us exactly what happened after the officers left. I described Michael's frantic phone call in the hallway, his hissed threats to someone named Tammy, then the hush that followed. He hasn't come back, I finished, but I doubt silence means surrender. Grace tapped her tablet. Tammy Lawson. On-again girlfriend, suspended real estate license. 2 DUI arrests. I'll send a preservation request for her social media accounts. The pastor laid a gentle hand on my knuckles. What you need most today is rest. Let us do the lifting. I tried to smile, but worry wouldn't loosen its bite. Rest when the wolves retreat, Pastor. At noon, my landline trilled. An unfamiliar woman's voice spread honey over barbed wire. Mrs. Smith, this is Francine at First Pioneer Bank. We have your son here to finalize paperwork on your durable power of attorney. Just a routine signature confirmation. My pulse sprinted. I motioned for Grace, put the call on speaker. Grace leaned in, crisp as a judge's robe. This is attorney Grace Patel representing Mrs. Smith. She is not granting power of attorney. Cease all transactions immediately. Francine's grammar crumbled. Yes, ma'am, of course. Click, Grace pivoted to me. He's going for the money, Helen. The abuse petition is good, but assets move faster than court calendars. Then we move faster, I said, though my knees quaked inside wool socks. She grabbed her phone. I'll file for a temporary asset freeze. Pastor, drive Helen to her credit union branch. Remove Michael as beneficiary today. The pastor didn't argue. 10 minutes later, we were buckled into his sedan, windshield wipers swatting mist like anxious metronomes. My reflection in the glass startled me. Scarf knotted tight, purple bruising along my hairline. I looked like a soldier returning from a war nobody would believe. At the credit union, manager Delia Griffith eyed my ID, then the restraining order papers Grace had emailed ahead. Delia clicked across her keyboard, ponytail flipping with each keystroke. I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, she murmured, but your son already attempted a wire transfer this morning. We flagged it. Something about the signature didn't match past records. She printed a denial slip. Michael's forged flourish loomed at the bottom, the S in Smith looping like a noose instead of my tidy cursive knot. Heat flushed my cheeks, equal parts anger and betrayal. I inhaled the antiseptic scent of bank lobby carpet, then exhaled slow. Thank you for catching it, I whispered. Delia notarized documents, removing Michael from every account, and added a password only I knew. The middle name Franklin used for me in love letters, Larkspur. Let my son guess that. Back in the car, rain tapered to mist. Pastor Jordan started the engine, but I laid a hand on his arm. Drive me to the courthouse, I said. I need copies of every filing. He glanced at my trembling fingers. Maybe tomorrow? Today, I insisted. Michael's counting on fatigue. I will give him no such gift. By dusk, I was home again, a folder of stamped documents clutched against my rib cage like a shield. Grace returned at 7 p.m., triumphant. Judge Martinez signed the freeze order. Michael can't touch a penny. I almost wept. Almost, until Grace's brow knitted. But he petitioned for an emergency competency hearing. He claims you threatened him with a knife and have early onset dementia. The hearing is 48 hours from now. Thunder, distant all afternoon, chose that instant to crack overhead. Pastor Jordan crossed himself. I tightened my scarf. Grace met my eyes. We'll win, Helen, but the courtroom is a stage. They'll parade every quiver of your hand, every forgetful pause. So from now until Wednesday, you sleep, you eat, and you memorize the 10 simple questions Martinez loves to ask. I nodded, but sleep felt like surrender and dawn like a predator pacing just outside the curtains. Court day dawned the color of cold steel, sky flat and pitiless. Grace arrived at 6:30 sharp, armed with a thermos of ginger tea and flashcards scrawled with the judge's favorite questions. Who is the current president? How many cents in a dollar? Recite your home address. She drilled me until the answers pulsed behind my ribs like second heartbeats. By 8:15, we stood outside courtroom 3. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The corridor smelled of floor wax and nerves. Michael paced near the double doors in a charcoal suit that fit like borrowed virtue. Tammy Lawson leaned against the wall, cherry red lipstick and a folder clutched to her chest. Her smirk slid over me like grease. The bailiff called us in. Judge Martina Ramirez, black robe, silver bun, took her seat and glanced at the docket. In the matter of Smith versus Smith, petition for temporary guardianship. Her gavel tapped once. Mr. Smith, you may proceed. Michael's attorney, a sleek man named Keller, strode to the podium. He projected a photo of my shaved head on the courtroom screen. Gasps fluttered through the gallery. Your Honor, my client acted out of concern when his mother mutilated herself during a psychotic episode. He seeks guardianship solely for her safety. I felt every eye slide to me, searching for the tremor, the babble, the crack in the dam. I folded my hands, forced them still. Keller continued. We will demonstrate a pattern of disorientation, aggression, and, he paused for effect, financial mismanagement. Grace rose. Objection. Conclusions without foundation. Sustained, Ramirez said. Present facts, counselor. Keller beckoned Tammy to the stand. She sashayed forward, oath swirling from her lips like perfume. Mrs. Smith threatened to hit me with a frying pan last month, she drawled. And she thinks her dead husband talks through the radio. Grace leaned toward me. Watch, she whispered. When Keller finished direct examination, Grace approached the witness stand with the calm of a surgeon. Miss Lawson, where were you the night Mrs. Smith supposedly brandished this skillet? Tammy flipped her hair. At her house. Michael asked me to check on her. Grace tapped her tablet. Cell tower data places your phone at Lucky Ace Bar from 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. that evening. Explain the discrepancy. Tammy's eyes darted. Maybe my phone died? Grace turned to the judge. Your Honor, we also have Ms. Lawson's public social media post from 11:30 p.m. that same night. Selfie, karaoke stage, captioned shots with my ride or die. She projected the image. The jury box lurched with muffled laughter. Tammy's bravado wilted. Keller objected. Ramirez overruled. Grace pressed on. Ms. Lawson, do you recognize this 30-second audio clip? She hit play. Michael's voice crackled from Mandy's ring camera. Once she's in the psych ward, power of attorney is mine, babe. Think beachfront. Tammy's face blanched. He was joking. Did you laugh? Grace asked. A beat of silence. No. Grace pivoted. No further questions. Tammy slumped. Lipstick suddenly too bright for her drained skin. Now it was Michael's turn. He strode to the witness box, chin held high, eyes glinting like bottle shards. Keller guided him through rehearsed lines. Filial devotion, sleepless nights, a mother slipping into delusion. Then Grace crossed him. Mr. Smith, how many DUIs have you been arrested for? Michael's jaw twitched. 2 years ago. 3, Grace corrected, including one last February. Were you living in your mother's house at that time? Yes, he muttered. Grace displayed bank statements. And is this your withdrawal of $5,000 labeled Serenity Gardens deposit? Michael swallowed. Yes. For an institution that requires proof of incompetency, she said, tell us, why did you also request durable power of attorney authorization at First Pioneer Bank yesterday morning? He shifted. The teller misunderstood. Grace interrupted, leveling Mandy's video transcript on the projector. Michael's own words filled the room. She'll freak, I'll film it, judges eat that up. A hush thicker than cathedral silence settled. Judge Ramirez removed her glasses. Mr. Smith, do you wish to amend your testimony? Michael's shoulders sagged, arrogance leaking like air from a slashed tire. I was scared. I overreacted. Grace nodded once, collected her papers. No further questions. At 12:30, the judge recessed for deliberation. We waited in a small adjoining room, Grace scrolling case law, Pastor Jordan praying under his breath, my hands cupped around lukewarm tea. Through the frosted glass, I glimpsed Michael seated alone, head in hands. For a flicker of a heartbeat, pity stirred. Then I remembered the buzzing clippers, the cold laugh, and pity hardened into resolve. The bailiff summoned us back. Judge Ramirez's gaze cut the air. The court finds insufficient evidence of incompetency. Petition for guardianship is denied. Furthermore, probable cause exists for investigation of elder abuse and fraud. Mr. Smith, you are ordered to surrender your passport and refrain from contact with Mrs. Smith. Her gavel struck. I exhaled. Felt my lungs fill all the way for the first time in days. Grace squeezed my elbow, whispering, "Round 1, victory." But as we exited, Deputy Calloway intercepted us, face grave. "Mrs. Smith, we just received notice your house deed was recorded this morning with a quitclaim signature, apparently yours. Transferring ownership to Michael Smith, county clerk, flagged it as suspicious, but technically it's processed." The corridor spun. "He sold my home?" "Not sold," the deputy said. "Mortgaged it. A fast cash lender. If it isn't reversed within 10 days, the property enters foreclosure." Grace's spine snapped straight. Forgery and mortgage fraud, he's escalating. Pastor Jordan steadied me, voice low. Evil never quits at first defeat. I drew a breath that tasted of courtroom dust and brewing storm. Then neither will we. Leaving the courthouse, I felt the noon sun slice across the asphalt like a welder's torch, yet frost settled in my bones when Deputy Calloway murmured that a forged quitclaim deed had been filed on my home and a foreclosure clock was already ticking. Grace hustled me into her Prius before fear could paralyze my feet, her briefcase clacking shut like a starting gun. She declared our first stop the Registrar of Deeds paperwork. She said, "Bleeds truth no matter how prettily a liar wears a suit." Inside the registrar's fluorescent warren, a clerk named Petra slid the deed across the counter. My signature sprawled there, flawless down to the looping L I always save for Christmas cards, and the sight of it stole my breath. Grace photographed every angle, noting a blank witness line and a notary stamp from a UPS franchise 10 miles away. "Sloppy work," she muttered, but still potent enough to mortgage a life's worth of memories. Petra whispered that UPS overwrote surveillance after only 30 hours and wished us Godspeed. Time, it seemed, was a hungry wolf on our heels. We reached the UPS store in a strip mall between a payday loan joint and a vape shop reeking of artificial mango. The manager, Cal, a sandy-haired veteran whose posture suggested he still saluted sunrise, eyed Grace's subpoena, then frowned at his DVR. The footage would overwrite in less than half an hour. He escorted us to a cramped back room where monitors flickered like tired fireflies. At 7:58 that morning, the feed showed Tammy Lawson's scarlet coat flaring inside the lobby, a document tube tucked beneath her arm. A minute later, Michael entered behind tinted sunglasses, sliding the forged deed across the counter with the nonchalance of a man ordering coffee. The clerk stamped, notarized, and handed it back, and by 8:01 they sauntered out grinning. Cal agreed to burn the segment to a flash drive. Corporate policy demanded a judge's order, which Grace produced with a flourish. So by the time the clock struck 2, the only surviving copy of that footage rested in her palm while the DVR swallowed its own tail. Pastor Jordan met us at my house, toolbox dangling from one fist. He installed tamper-proof deadbolts while Grace spread documents across my dining table. The deed, the foreclosure notice, the incriminating USB. Tomorrow, she promised, she would file for an emergency injunction to void the mortgage and freeze Michael's access to any funds derived from it. Judge Martinez, already furious over the guardianship stunt, would likely grant it. I tried to focus on strategy, but my gaze drifted to the kitchen window where red maples Franklin planted danced in late summer wind, trees my son had just leveraged for quick cash. The scent of the cinnamon pie cooling on the counter, baked that very morning in a brief haze of victory, suddenly tasted like mockery. Pastor Jordan poured coffee and urged me to rest. Exhaustion, he said, was the devil's favorite doorway. I wanted to argue that rust forms during rest, but my eyelids drooped and I conceded, though not before locking the flash drive and every vital paper in the cedar chest beneath my bed, the same chest that once held my wedding gown. Near midnight, a crash shattered uneasy sleep. Brett, Mandy's college-age son stationed on my porch as lookout, burst inside breathless. Someone had tried to pry the back door but bolted when he rose from his chair. We inspected the frame, fresh gouges, a screwdriver abandoned in haste, and found a sticky note slapped to the knob. Last chance, my, sign or lose it all. Deputy Calloway arrived, bagged the tool, dusted for prints, and warned me that cornered predators escalate quickly. I watched him drive away under streetlights that painted trembling halos on wet asphalt and whispered to the night that I was finished trembling. Dawn broke thin and pink. I dressed in my navy Sunday suit, Franklin once called it my boardroom armor, and slid the Bible he carried through 2 wars into my handbag. Pastor Jordan steered us toward downtown while I rehearsed calm breaths for Judge Martinez. Halfway there, an unknown number buzzed my phone. A distorted voice hissed, "Tick-tock, ma. Banks love cash more than judges love paper. 9 days left." The line went dead, but my pulse stayed steady. Let him count the hours, I thought. We were bringing the alarm. As the courthouse clock tower loomed ahead, its hands crawling toward 9, I realized anger had burned away every last veil of grief. What remained was something diamond hard and oddly light, a resolve forged from clippers and forged deeds and midnight knocks. Michael had always underestimated the quiet grit of the woman who raised him. Today he would meet her. I stepped from the car, smoothed the lapels of my suit, and walked toward the doors. Flash drive clinking in my purse like a key to the jail cell my son was building for himself. Judge Martinez's courtroom felt colder than any sanctuary I'd ever entered, the air-conditioned chill biting through my navy suit as though to test the steadiness of the heart beating beneath. Grace laid our stack of emergency motions on counsel's table, her face composed, the slightest quirk at one corner of her mouth hinting at the sharpened blade she intended to wield. Michael sat 2 rows back, shoulders hunched, hair slicked flat. Beside him, Tammy twisted a strand of crimson hair and avoided eye contact. The bailiff announced the matter of Smith versus Smith, injunction to void fraudulent deed and freeze dispersed funds, and we rose like altar candles lit for judgment. Grace opened with the forged quit claim, passing the original to the clerk, and projecting a blow-up for the judge, even enlarged. The pen strokes impersonating my own looked so perfect they might have fooled me on a hurried day. I felt a wave of queasy awe at the fervor of my son's deception. Grace then called Petra from the registrar's office, who testified to the blank witness line and the notary stamp from the UPS franchise. Keller, Michael's attorney, objected half-heartedly. Petra's neutral recounting left no room for spin, and Keller's voice faltered when Judge Martinez overruled without lifting an eyebrow. Next, Grace plugged the flash drive into the courtroom monitor. The video flickered. Tammy in her scarlet coat, handing the document tube to the UPS clerk, Michael following. Sunglasses indoors at 7:59 a.m. The timestamp blinked crimson in the corner. Undeniable mechanical truth. Grace froze the frame where Michael's signature met the clerk's stamp, then rolled it forward to show their smug exit at 8:01. Gasps rippled through the gallery. I heard one elderly spectator whisper, "Shame," as though pronouncing an unholy rite. Keller stood to object again, but Grace slid the subpoena across like a checkmate and the judge allowed the footage in. Michael's face drained gray. He leaned toward Keller, who shrugged, palms up. Nothing to salvage in that recording. Tammy's lipstick print of a mouth narrowed to a paper cut. Judge Martinez asked Keller if he wished to cross-examine the clerk. Keller rose, shuffled papers, then muttered, "No questions." The gavel of silence that followed sounded louder than any wood and metal. Grace wasn't finished. She called Delia Griffith, the credit union manager, who confirmed Michael's attempt to wire mortgage proceeds and recited the password I had added, Larkspur, as evidence that I retain full cognitive function and control of my finances. Then she produced Brett's signed statement about the midnight break-in attempt, the screwdriver tagged with Michael's prints, and the menacing note taped to my door. Each exhibit landed like another brick sealing a vault. When the last document was marked, Grace turned to me. "Mrs. Smith, one question." I stood, palms dry despite the cold. "Did you ever sign any deed transferring your home to your son?" My voice rang steady. "Never." Grace nodded. No further questions. Keller sighed through his nose and rose. "Mrs. Smith, is it possible you forgot signing?" Grace objected before the question ended. Speculation on mental state already adjudicated. Judge Martinez sustained and Keller sat, shoulders folding inward like a crumpled envelope. The judge leaned back, fingers steepled, eyes drilling through Michael. "Mr. Smith, the evidence before this court shows clear intent to defraud and dispossess. Do you have anything to say?" Michael half rose, mouth opening, but whatever script he'd prepared had evaporated. He swallowed, shook his head, and sat again, gaze fixed on the marbled floor. "Injunction granted," the judge declared, voice echoing off paneled walls. "The quitclaim deed is set aside as void ab initio. All foreclosure proceedings are stayed. Funds dispersed shall be frozen pending criminal investigation." Her eyes softened a fraction as they met mine. "Mrs. Smith, your property rights are restored. Security of person and estate is a right this court will defend." Gavel down, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. Then relief rushed so fiercely my knees wobbled, and Grace's steady hand appeared under my elbow. We gathered our files while deputies approached Michael with polite firmness, escorting him and Tammy to a side room for questioning by the fraud unit. As he passed me, his gaze flicked up, anger, shame, and something like a frightened child's plea. I searched myself for pity and found only a quiet ache, the ache of watching a loved one drown while refusing to let him drag you under. Outside, summer heat slapped my cheeks, yet the sky looked bluer than it had in weeks. Pastor Jordan, who had prayed through every minute, guided me to a shaded bench. Grace joined us, slipped the flash drive into an envelope, and sealed it with a sigh that sounded almost like a hymn. "We won today," she said, "but criminal arraignment comes next." He could face 5 to 15 years. I stared at the courthouse doors where Michael remained inside, pictured steel cuffs, fluorescent cells, nights echoing with regret. "Grace," I whispered, "the law must stand, but is there room for mercy?" She studied me, lawyer's mind balancing scales. "Mercy can be written into sentencing recommendations," she said softly, "but it cannot delete the ledger." I nodded. Ledger and mercy, both truths Franklin had taught in stories beneath porch light moths. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Deal with me or lose him forever." Attached was a blurred photo of Michael in a corridor, flanked by 2 men in suits, neither deputy nor lawyer. My pulse skittered. Kidnapping or another bluff? Grace read over my shoulder, her expression hardening like iron fresh from the forge. "Someone else is playing this board," she murmured, "and they've just moved a queen." I rose, resolve coiling tighter than ever. "Then so will we." The message with Michael's blurred photo haunted every mile of the ride back to Willow Grove, its threat pulsing in my pocket like a second angry heart. Grace kept her Prius steady while Pastor Jordan sat in the back, whisper praying scripture verses that braided faith and urgency. My porch came into view, new deadbolts, glinting in late afternoon sun, yet the house no longer felt like a fortress so much as the board on which the next move would be forced. Inside, Grace spread the day's evidence across the dining table, but my eyes stayed on the text, "Deal with me or lose him forever." No callback number, just a burning demand. Pastor Jordan read over my shoulder, voice low. "Paul wrote that we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers. Whoever this is, they're the power Michael invited when he forged your name." Grace's thumbs flew on her phone, tracing bank lender registries. "Fast cash outfits sometimes wash cartel funds," she muttered. "Anonymous shell, threatening language. Classic predatory lender or worse." She paused, frowning at the screen. "Found it. Suncrest Capital Holdings, incorporated in Nevada 6 months ago. Sole director listed as Riley Stone. No birth year, no address. That's vapor." I ran a finger over Franklin's Bible spine, steadying my breath. If Suncrest hopes to squeeze money from me, why kidnap Michael? He already tried to hand them the deed. "Maybe he promised more than he could produce," Grace said. "Maybe they fronted cash for his gambling or liquor debts, and now foreclosure looks slow." She locked her gaze with mine. "We can involve police, but ransom games escalate fast." A ping broke the hush. Another message, same unknown ID, me at midnight. "River Road. Come alone. Bring the deed release. No cops." Attached. A clearer shot of Michael, puffy-eyed, wrists zip-tied, fear etched deeper than any courtroom shame. My son undone. Something inside me, the ache I thought hardened to diamond, splintered. Pastor Jordan placed a firm hand on my shoulder. "You cannot walk into a den of wolves alone." "I won't," Grace interjected, already dialing Deputy Calloway's private line. "But we can stage an alone arrival and keep backup close." She spoke quickly into the phone, coded phrases about surveillance support and silent perimeter. When she hung up, she met my gaze. Deputies assembling a task force. Unmarked car, plain clothes. "You'll wear a wire." Rain clouds bruised the horizon as dusk settled. I brewed coffee so strong the aroma felt like armor. Grace drafted a mock deed release. Legal gibberish on official letterhead meant to look like I was surrendering the property. Pastor Jordan retrieved a small digital transmitter from his chaplaincy disaster kit. I pinned it beneath the collar of my blouse, the mic resting at my throat where once a locket had danced. By 10:30, we were rolling toward River Road, a 2-lane strip hugging the murky canal where willows bent like eavesdropping crones. Deputy Calloway's sedan shadowed us at 3 car lengths. Another cruiser idled half a mile back. The plan. I would enter, stall for proof Michael was alive, then utter the safe phrase, "The ledger never lies," to trigger officers. 11:45, we reached an abandoned bait shop peeling under a flickering bulb. A lone SUV idled beside it, headlights off. My pulse hammered, but anger cooled it. These people had shaved my dignity, forged my life, and weaponized my child. Enough. I stepped from the Prius, clutching the fake release. Gravel crunched, cicadas droned like faulty power lines. A tall figure emerged, hood up, face shadowed, and motioned me inside the shop. The door groaned. Stench of mildew and diesel greeted us. There, under a single work lamp, Michael slumped on a folding chair, wrists bound but eyes blinking clear. Relief buckled my knees. I straightened, refusing to seem weak. The hooded figure tugged off the sweatshirt. Tammy. Her lipstick was gone, replaced by a cold grin. "Didn't expect me?" Suncrest wanted collateral, I delivered. Michael's good at forging signatures, terrible at paying debts. Michael's voice cracked. "Ma, don't give her anything. She's in over her head." "Quiet," Tammy snapped, swinging a small pistol into view. My breath caught, but training from courtroom composure held. I lifted the envelope. "This transfers the house. Release my son and it's yours." She took a step forward, eyes glinting. "Slide it over first." I mirrored her movement but slowed, letting my words fill the stale air. "Tammy, a deed is worthless without county filing. You'll need me alive to validate. Let him go. Keep me." Michael jerked against zip ties. "No!" Tammy hesitated, gambling with ego and greed. I saw the flicker. She needed legitimacy. I edged closer, heart thrumming the safe phrase in Morse code against my ribs. 3 more words, I told myself. Time it with the deputy's approach. Then headlights sliced through cracked shutters, Calloway's silent cue. Tammy swung the gun toward the glare, finger tightening. I dropped flat as the front door burst inward. "Sheriff's Department, drop it." Floodlight filled the shop. Tammy froze, gun wavering, then clattered to the floor as 2 deputies tackled her. Michael sagged, sobbing, while an officer sliced his restraints. I pushed to my knees, safe phrase dying on my tongue, unnecessary. Deputy Calloway hauled Tammy upright, reciting rites. She spit curses like broken glass. In the chaos, Michael whispered, "I'm sorry, Ma. I tried to fix it, but they kept wanting more." I cradled his bruised cheek. "We will face the ledger together." Outside, rain finally broke, washing dust from the world. Grace appeared, soaked trench coat clinging, and pressed a warm hand over mine. Mortgage voided, gun charge added. Suncrest shell traced to Tammy's fake LLC. "It's over, Helen." Lightning cracked westward, illuminating the canal and the path home. But justice, I knew, was only the first sunrise. Redemption required many dawns. I helped Michael into the cruiser, cuffs gentle but firm, praying each raindrop carried away a sliver of the man he'd become and watered the seed of the man he might yet learn to be. Sentencing day arrived under a sky scrubbed clean by the storm, the courthouse facade gleaming like polished bone. Inside, the air buzzed with whisper-hush expectation. Reporters who had ignored the guardianship drama now lined the back wall, sniffing a headline about forged deeds, abduction, and a mother who faced down her own flesh and blood. I seated myself beside Grace at counsel's table, hands folded over Franklin's Bible, the pages worn thin where his thumb once lingered on Psalm 51. Michael entered in an orange jail jumper, wrists cuffed, but the bravado that had so often curtained his eyes was gone. He looked painfully small, as if the jumpsuit had vacuumed away the years of hard veneer and left the frightened boy who used to crawl into my lap after nightmares. Tammy was nowhere to be seen. She had accepted a plea deal for weapons possession and fraud in exchange for testifying about the Suncrest shell. Judge Ramirez surveyed the packed room. Mr. Smith stands convicted of elder abuse, mortgage fraud, and attempted kidnapping. Does the defense wish to speak before sentencing? Keller rose, weary. Your Honor, my client wishes to address the court directly. Michael shuffled to the lectern, chains clinking. He cleared his throat, voice cracking like thaw ice. I have no excuse. I hurt the woman who loved me when no one else would. I thought money could buy back the years I wasted. All I bought was darkness. He swallowed, gaze meeting mine. Mom, I shaved your head, forged your name, let fear run me like a puppet. I'm so sorry. A murmur rustled the gallery. I felt Grace's subtle pressure against my elbow. She had advised silence. But motherhood outweighed strategy. I rose. Your Honor, may I respond? Ramirez nodded. I faced my son, Michael. Repentance is measured not by words, but by the road you walk after speaking them. If prison is where you must begin that road, then walk it with purpose, and know I will pray every mile. I turned back to the bench. Judge, I ask that his sentence include mandatory rehabilitation, vocational training, and restorative justice mediation when deemed appropriate. He stripped me of dignity. Let the system rebuild his. Gasps flickered again, some admiring, some incredulous that a victim would plead mercy. Judge Ramirez studied me with an unreadable tenderness, then addressed Michael. You are sentenced to 12 years, with eligibility for supervised release after 6, contingent on completion of intensive substance abuse treatment, financial literacy coursework, and 1,000 hours of elder care community service performed after release. Restitution to Mrs. Smith in full. Court is adjourned. The gavel sounded. One clean strike that echoed like thunder rolling off into distance. Deputies guided Michael toward a side door. He paused, tears spilling, and mouthed, "Thank you." I pressed 2 fingers to my lips and lifted them in silent benediction. The door closed and a hush fell. Deep and sacred. Outside, sunlight filtered through cotton clouds, warm on my still short silver curls. Grace exhaled a breath she'd been holding for weeks. It's over, she said. I shook my head gently. No, now it begins. Together we walked past reporters whose flashbulbs popped like summer fireflies. I offered no comment beyond a steady smile that I hoped carried both sorrow and resolve. Back home, the maple leaves glistened from last night's rain, their red richer than I remembered. Pastor Jordan waited on the porch swing, thermos at his feet. How does freedom taste? He asked. Like responsibility, I answered, settling beside him. I told him of the judge's ruling, the service hours, the chance, slim but real, that Michael might unbury the better man he once was. The pastor nodded. Grace, he said, is the seed that sometimes sprouts in jail soil. We prayed then, simple words, no theatrics, thanking God for justice carried out and for mercy still unfolding. When we finished, twilight had painted the sky lavender and gold. I rose, smoothed my navy suit, and turned toward the front door where new locks gleamed. Inside, I placed Franklin's Bible back on the mantel, right below his recovered war medals. Their bronze faces caught the setting sun burning bright, an inheritance no forger could steal. I brewed chamomile tea, carried it to my writing desk, and opened a blank journal. On the first page, I wrote today's date and one sentence. Forgiveness is not a pardon, it is permission to build again. I closed the journal and faced the camera I'd set atop the desk. My final message to those who have walked this valley with me. Friends, I began, voice steady. Thank you for lending your ears and your courage. My story proves that age does not make us fragile. Silence does. If someone tries to shave away your worth, speak up, call for help, and when justice comes, season it with mercy, because even the sharpest truth should heal as well as cut. Tell me in the comments what strength means to you, and share this video with someone who needs hope tonight. God bless you, stay safe, and never let anyone dim the light God put inside you. I pressed end recording. Outside, crickets tuned their fiddles beneath the maples. Somewhere, perhaps in a cell already humming fluorescent, Michael began counting the days toward a different kind of sunrise. I whispered into the quiet house, "Walk the road, son. I'll meet you at every mile marker." Then I sipped my tea, savoring its warmth, and let the night settle like a promise fulfilled.